over the last couple of years, my life blew up. It's completely unrecognizable. If someone had told me, if I had gone back in the past and said to myself 5 years ago, this is what's going to happen. This is how 2025 and 2026 or 2022 to 2026 is going to shake out. I would have looked at myself and been like, first of all, how is this even possible? Second of all, no. There's no way that I could have envisioned the life that I'm living. And yet, it was a struggle in these years because so many things, like I said, blew up. So many things changed. And I felt as though I had my tail between my legs. And I viewed myself as a failure. I'm not going to get into the personal parts. That's more for me. There were personal aspects of my life that I was so disoriented, y'all. I can't even begin to tell you how discombobulated I felt. And when I was looking around at my life and everything, rather than seeing the blessings, rather than seeing the things that were good, which I really couldn't see, it was very difficult for me to be able to see that. I focused on the failures. I focused on the things that had gone wrong, and I blamed myself. The personal life was completely in shambles. What I was still holding on to, though, was my professional life. My 9-to-5 job is secure. It was okay. I'm not, once again, that's a whole nother thing, and it really doesn't add to the story. The part of my professional life, though, that really was tied to my identity was my spiritual wellness business in Her Power. I had been working at this business for years, a decade, basically, at this point last year, 2025. There was nothing that was coming out of that business, in my mind, there was nothing that was coming out of that business that I could say tangibly was making it, I don't want to say profitable, but where I could say, yeah, I could keep going. Now, I kept having a lot of starts and stops. I had YouTube videos. I had a podcast. I was doing a blog. I had a website. I did do work in the realm of, I had workshops that I was doing, and not just workshops from where I was living. I had workshops in other places, in other states. I was preparing to do an international retreat with Black women in Ecuador. That was going to happen, and then COVID happened, so that had to shut down. I was doing virtual classes and courses and workshops virtually. I was doing classes in person. I was doing sound baths. I was giving lectures. I was giving talks, but nothing was gaining traction. When my personal life was deteriorating or had deteriorated, not really. I mean, honestly, we're just using these words. The one thing that I felt I could hold on to was my professional life. The one thing I could hold on to was my business. And I said, in the midst of all the chaos that was going on, I said, maybe this is a blessing that all of this had to dismantle. All of this had to blow up and get dissolved so that it could make room for this. That's not actually how it was shaking out, though. It was still a struggle for me to get the business up and running. And I'll say this, my old videos are not on here. I deleted all of them. I went through this whole purging. I'll tell you this, it was, I'd say July last year, 2025, when I came to God. I asked God, what is it that I'm supposed to do about this? I need your help. I need your guidance. Give me a very clear sign. Me and God like this, okay? And I immediately felt and heard, give it to me. Give me the business. Sacrifice it. Get rid of it. And I said, okay, okay. For a split second, I was sad. I cried, actual tears. And then I said, you have to be doing this for a reason. There would be no other purpose for you to say, give it over to me, than for something else to make way. So I didn't even do a whole, I was like, what's the point of me doing a post? I like, for what? I got rid of all my videos. I got rid of, I think, even my Facebook page for Inner Power. I kept TikTok and Instagram. So all of that still has Inner Power. I tried to shut down my website, but my host wouldn't let me. Like, honestly, I looked for hours of how can I shut this down? And all I could do was basically deactivate it. And so I said to myself, or I said to God, okay, clearly you don't want me to get rid of it. You want me to just kind of put it on pause, which is fine. I can do that. We don't have to do all these things. It's okay. The business was the last piece that I was holding on to for my sense of identity, my sense of purpose, my sense of value. God saying, give this over to me, meant that I had to strip myself all the way down. But I interpreted this other piece as failure. I had failed in my marriage. I had failed my family. I failed in this business. That was what I was thinking. That's what I was hearing. That was my internal voice communicating this information to me in this way, saying, you failed, Kendall. You failed. And I did not want to fail in this business. I don't know about y'all, but when I hear the word failure, I have a negative connotation that is connected to it. I'm shifting my mindset on this word and looking at it as, I don't want to say a positive, but just as a restructuring. I'm changing the outlook. I'm changing the connotation of what the word means for me. But in the past, for many, many years, up until recently, hearing failure meant that, well, you didn't succeed, you missed the mark, and that failure was a bad thing, and that if I failed, then I ultimately am bad. I struggled with this. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this video up because recording it has been arduous with Gizmo running around and I've been distracted. I think that I've had a difficult time in talking about this topic. I always say that everything is spiritual, and the fact that recording this video has been so scattered. You're seeing the edited version, but in order to get this edited version out, there were so many things going on behind the scenes. And I think it's interesting, given the topic of failing. As I was recording, I wanted it to be seamless. I wanted it to be effortless. I wanted it to come across smoothly. And I'm not quite sure if I'm clear. I felt disjointed as I was recording. I had a lot of starts and stops. There were just moments where I got out of the flow. And of course, because this topic is this topic, it's giving me an opportunity to say, I'm not failing. I'm changing. I'm growing. I'm learning to really accept all the different parts of me. Failure, as I said from the very beginning, I have a negative connotation with it. I attribute a negative energy with this word. That's starting to fall away more and more. And particularly when I look at my business specifically, I'm not going to talk about the personal. When I look at my business in her power, it was not a failure when I gave it over to God. It wasn't me failing. I learned a lot in those 10 years. I learned about not just how to create content or how to set up a workshop or marketing or social media. I also learned how to be someone who shows up, who walks the walk, walks the talk, doesn't just talk the talk, but walks the talk. I had to learn consistency. I had to learn how to restructure, how to pivot, how to rebrand, reinvent. All of that. And there's so much, as I say this now, there's so much that I learned in that 10-year span. And I'm just talking about professional stuff. I've learned so much in that 10-year span about myself, the resiliency, the ability to be creative, the ability to see things in different ways and different structures, to, like I said, to pivot and to say, okay, this isn't working, let's try this. In those entire 10 years, I didn't give up. I kept trying. I kept pushing forward. And I said to myself, okay, if this doesn't work, then I can try this. That's not failure. That's growth. And the things that I failed at that are outside of that realm, that are outside of the business, that wasn't failure either. It's no different than a caterpillar going into a cocoon and then coming out as a butterfly. That chrysalis stage of being in the cocoon, it's not a cocoon, but being in this chrysalis, being encased in something that keeps the caterpillar, butterfly safe to be able to morph and change, is necessary. So when the dynamite had been thrown and when everything exploded, rather than looking at all of this as failure, that I had failed, I started to look at it more so in the truth of what it was, which is that I had outgrown those things. And even though in my shifting and changing to move from this phase to this other phase, or to be this old me and then shift into the new me, I'm not gonna lie, y'all, it was messy. I was messy. And I'm learning that so much is gained and learned in the mess. I can't have a clean, pristine life. There's no such thing. I never did. I never had it. It was never possible. I've never had a life that was just clean, easy, and pristine and no flaws. Nothing. I never came out of a situation unscathed, ever. So I don't know why I even thought that I could do that now. But in either case, outgrowing, expanding, taking up space, reclaiming my power, not failure. These old things were not fails. They were tests. They were opportunities for me to see what was working, what was not. And it gave me a chance to make a choice. Do I want to keep being the old me and doing the old things, or do I want to be this newer, truer version of myself? And that means that some stuff has got to go. I hope that there's some gems in here, that there's some things that resonate with you and that you're able to take and use it. Please comment below. I want to know your thoughts. Of course, like and subscribe as well. Wow. It's going to be interesting editing this video because there was a lot going on, but everything is spiritual. Everything is spiritual. All right, y'all. I'll catch you on the next video.